They want to arrest their political opponents and silence those who disagree. We reject censorship in all forms, and we believe in freedom, open debate, and fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law.
President Trump standing up for free speech. Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, not free speech, people. They're not on our side. And a founder of a messaging app called Telegram, Pavel Durov, a youngish Russian billionaire, tech tycoon, arrested in France on Saturday night in Paris after landing in his own private jet because he allows too much free speech on Telegram. Telegram is compared to Twitter, and Telegram was very popular with Ukrainians in Ukraine during the opening phases of the war with Russia, and I believe beyond. Russians were also using Telegram to communicate back and forth. And the radical Islamic jihadi terrorists, the genocidal, blood-sopped lunatics of Hamas, who enjoy the full support of the Democrat Party, they too used Telegram on October 7th when they attacked innocent, civilized people and raped and murdered and kidnapped them, because that's what they do. And now France wants to arrest them. And speaking of criminal, corrupt, we hear a lot about extremists in our military, in the U.S. military. The Democrats love this idea that there are extremists in the U.S. military. I found one. I found an extremist in the U.S. military. Well, he's out of the military now. His retired Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. You may remember he's a Ukrainian American. He should be catapulted into the Atlantic Ocean. He should have been a long time ago. Now, retired Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, who was a key witness in the impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump. Remember the phone call, which was a perfect phone call, and it was, asking about Biden family corruption and getting millions of dollars from Ukraine for not providing any services whatsoever. That's called corruption, but we accept corruption as long as it's Democrat Party corruption. The New York Times and CNN do, and so on. But this is crazy. The Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, retired, says Elon Musk now should be nervous. That's the word that he used, nervous. Alexander Vindman, little fascist that he is. He should have been court-martialed and probably jailed for betraying the commander-in-chief and lying. And I think he lied under oath, too. That's my recollection. Vindman says Musk should be, quote, nervous, end quote, after Telegram CEO was arrested in France. And Alexander Vindman said, free speech absolutists, weirdos. First of all, that's grammatically incorrect. The grammatically correct phrasing would be free speech absolutists, weirdos, because the plural would come in weirdos, not absolutists, weirdos, which is grammatically incorrect. Telegram CEO Pavel Durov is being accused of not taking sufficient action to limit criminal activity on the messaging app. Well, again, I think former CIA Director John Brennan, who used then Twitter to corrupt the 2020 election with lies about in a conspiracy with 50 other so-called intelligence community people. It's a gated community, and they're all naked in there. It's like the Bohemian Grove, but weirder. And he corrupted our election using social media to do it. So if he goes to France, I'll buy him a ticket. He should be arrested too, just like Pavel Durov has been arrested, because we're living in a critical time in human history, and Western civilization is under assault. Free speech is under assault. The free practice of religion is under assault. In the United States, this is all by the left, all by the Democrat Party and their media allies, their corrupt media allies. Free speech. The Second Amendment is also under assault. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, because they're not on the side of America, our Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or the Enlightenment, for that matter. Quite remarkable. I don't think they would subscribe to the Magna Carta at this point. 1215 AD, but never mind that. So, retired Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, who made waves as a key witness in the impeachment trial against former President Donald Trump, issued a warning to Elon Musk. Elon Musk should have him struck with a space laser. He should just have Vindman hit with a laser from space, and then Vindman wouldn't have such a big mouth anymore. So Alexander Vindman, the arrogant, smug SOB, issues a warning to Elon Musk on Sunday after Telegram messaging app CEO Pavel Durov was arrested in France by the left-wing fascists there. Durov was served with an arrest warrant in Paris on Saturday night following a preliminary police investigation surrounding his alleged failure to sufficiently limit criminal activity, that is, restrict speech, on Telegram, the social media app. While experts and industry leaders sounded the alarm about the international free speech implications of his arrest, Democrat, activist, radical Ukrainian fascist, an extremist in the ranks of our military, now retired, Alexander Vindman championed the move. He championed the arrest because he's a little Nazi, a little fascist, taking to X to warn its CEO about the, quote, growing appetite for accountability, end quote, before suggesting that Musk could be next. He'd buy France and give it to Germany just for laughs. Germany used to want France. You remember that? They wanted France. We should give it back to Germany. Probably be a lot better. While Durov holds French citizenship, he's a Russian by birth, he holds French citizenship, arrested for violating French law. This has broader implications for other social media platforms, including Twitter, Alexander Vindman wrote. It's called X now, Vindman. You're a little behind the times. You got a very tiny Ukrainian brain, and, you're fired. There is a growing intolerance. See, the only thing not to be tolerated is intolerance. There's a growing intolerance for platforming disinfo and malign influence. You mean like Russian collusion and President Trump and supporting Hillary Clinton destroying 33,000 emails and 51 intelligence officials, including penitentiary-faced John Brennan, the Communist Party voter who voted for Communist Party candidate Gus Hall for President of the United States, spreading disinformation to the American people on the lead up to Election Day, corrupting our presidential election, as the CIA has done in third world countries for a long, long time. There's a growing intolerance for platforming disinfo and malign influence, a growing appetite for accountability. Musk should be nervous. Vindman should be targeted in a drone strike, I think. This guy is un-American, a radical, an extremist, a fascist, an anti-Trump leftist with his Ukrainian roots. And he doesn't, let's just say we shouldn't listen to what he has to say. We should hear what he has to say. We shouldn't take him seriously because he's obviously an extremist that came from the military ranks. Just amazing stuff. Elon Musk, also on X. Dangerous times. And he puts a list together. He's got a list together from End Wokeness. UK mass arrests citizens for memes. France arrests founder of Telegram. Ireland tries to ban mean memes. Brazil forces X to flee the country. Isn't that amazing? Australia tries to censor X posts. EU tries to blackmail Elon Musk. Department of Justice jails someone for a meme. That happened here in the United States, and the media is good with that. Maduro blocks all, and it goes on. And Elon Musk posted this with the simple words, dangerous times. And I got to tell you, President Trump, the soundbite I played of President Trump coming back, talking about the threat to free speech. The threat to free speech in the United States is the Democratic Party. And if you don't believe me, believe Robert F. Kennedy Jr., believe Donald Trump. But you can go ahead and believe me, too. Telegram, which has over 900 million users, is a messaging app that is compatible to WhatsApp, but according to the New York Times, also allows larger groups of people to communicate across different channels. New York Times also reported the app was on the radar of law enforcement agencies around the world because terrorist organizations, drug runners, weapons dealers, and far-right extremist groups, how about far-left extremist groups, because they've murdered more people than any mob of killers in the history of the world, have used it for communicating, recruiting, and organizing. I think the Democrat Party's used it too. Therefore, they should all be arrested. Every Democrat. Time for rail spurs and detention camps. What do you think? This is where the left is taking Western Europe and the United States and Latin America, where they've been taking Latin America for a long time. Prominent politicians and industry leaders rallied behind Durov, accusing the French government of violating free speech with his arrests. Now, I played President Trump, and RFK Jr. said, we need to protect free speech, the need to protect free speech has never been more urgent. He's what liberals used to be and what Democrats used to be, but the Democrats are no more. And since I mentioned President Trump, I was also going back and forth this morning with Sebastian Gorka, with the great Gorka. And Gorka is posting on X a photograph of President Trump. President Trump today went to, now keeping in mind that Joe Biden went last night on Air Force One after a week's vacation in Central California in the mountains behind Santa Barbara, where I used to live for 7 years. He's in the San Ynez Valley at a billionaire's ranch. Joe Biden was at a billionaire's 8,000-acre ranch in the San Ynez Valley. Then he got on Air Force One, came back yesterday, not to Washington to do his job, but to Dover Air Force Base, where you may recall him looking at his wristwatch during the dignified return of the 13 Americans murdered in a suicide attack 3 years ago today. 3 years ago today is when that happened, the suicide attack at Hamid Karzai Airport in Kabul, Afghanistan, when they should have been using Bagram Air Base to evacuate our troops. But everything was done wrong, a disaster, a catastrophe. But President Trump today, on the third anniversary of the attack in Afghanistan because of Joe Biden's botched catastrophe, his disaster, pulling out of Afghanistan like an idiot. And today's the third anniversary of the Abbey Gate massacre. President Trump went to Arlington National Cemetery today and paid his respects to the 13 U.S. warfighters murdered that day. President Trump was at Arlington National Cemetery. Kamala Harris has said nothing. Joe Biden has said nothing, but he probably, as Sebastian Gorka points out, will probably check his watch again today because, and honestly, 13 Americans massacred, and President Trump pays his respects. Joe Biden is extending his endless summer vacation because he doesn't give a hoot. He's not on our side. Kamala Harris, she doesn't even know it happened. She's a complete dimwit. And I've got Robert F. Kennedy talking about the danger to free speech. And he's talking about his own party, the party that he says his father, Robert F. Kennedy, and his uncle, John F. Kennedy, would find unrecognizable today. And on that, we can certainly agree. You know, as you gear up for back to school, might be today, the fall season, your feet deserve the same level of support they've had, you know, throughout all your summer adventures. Introducing G-Defy shoes. G-Defy shoes with VersaShock technology. Unlike ordinary brands of shoes, G-Defy offers superior shock absorption and trampoline-like energy return. My best girl and I each have a pair. We hike around the city in them. You know, these shoes can help provide relief from foot pain, knee pain, ankle pain, even discomfort in your back. Whether you're a parent tackling a new school year, chasing after your kids, just hustling through the daily grind, G-Defy shoes offer the comfort and versatility that your feet crave. Honestly, each pair also includes 2 free supportive orthotics, pairs of supportive orthotics, and a special lateral stabilizer shown to help improve your stride, the way you walk, the way you run. As a listener to this show, you get to enjoy a special back-to-school offer. You visit gdefy.com and get $20 off your order of $100 or more with the code CHRIS. That's G-Defy Shoes, G-D-E-F-Y, G-D-E-F-Y.com. And don't forget to use the code CHRIS for $20 off your order of $100 or more. Step into the fall season with G-Defy Shoes. Visit gdefy.com today. Yeah, what do you hear? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And his own family is out to get him now. They're assassinating his character. Now, again, President Trump went to Arlington National Cemetery today where there were wreath layings for the 13 Americans murdered there in a radical Islamic jihadi terrorist attack, facilitated in part by the Biden-Harris administration, to be sure. The Associated Press headline doesn't talk about President Trump being at Arlington and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden not being at Arlington. The headline is Trump tries to connect Harris to the chaotic Afghanistan war withdrawal on anniversary of attack. How dare he try to connect the administration to the administration's actions and policies?
Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony that you are about to witness is an Army wreath-laying ceremony.
Today at Arlington.
To be conducted on behalf of the Abigail 13.
The Democrats want nothing to do with this. They're not going to be there. Because you might come to the conclusion that they're not on our side. Nor are they on the side of free speech or the free practice of religion. Unless you're a jihadi, of course, in which case the Democrats back you as a member of Hamas. Now they have to back Hezbollah. They still mourn the loss of their General Qasem Soleimani. Today at Arlington, President Trump, President Joe Biden, continues his endless summer vacation, now in Delaware, moving out of his vacation in California in the San Ynez Valley, continuing his vacation at one of his multi-million-dollar houses that CNN doesn't find curious at all on his government salary all these years. Remarkable. I've got RFK Jr. and President Trump coming up. The best music in the business. Best music in the business, no doubt about it. Thanks to the great Mike McKay. Other shows steal our music. Have you noticed that? I hear a lot about that. We haven't taken a phone call in a while, and I want to get to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and also to President Trump, of course. Horse is a horse, of course, of course. Oh, I'm so torn. Let's go to Blaze, calling from Bogota, Colombia, which is not only another country, it's on a different continent, because, it's a very intercontinental show. Blaze, you are on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
I was listening to your colleague and friend, Mr. Colonnese, last week speaking in that interview that conversation with Tucker Carlson. I wanted to listen for 15 minutes. It ended up being 3 hours. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've had a chance to hear it, but it links a lot with the things that you were talking about this morning related to RFK's comments regarding the media and free speech, and comments that you yourself have made many times about your departure from CNN. And that is about how do members of the media continue to work in the media for these large media corporations and maintain any sense of self-respect. Mm-hmm. I heard this interview on the weekend with Jonathan Karl and Tom Cotton, and it was really clear that Karl, I don't know whether he was completely uninformed or he was just lying, but either way, all he was doing was acting as a Xerox machine for the Harris campaign. Simply saying she's never going to have to say anything because all she has to do is let the media repeat her words for her. And I was just thinking, how do you maintain any sense of self-respect and continue to keep that job? What is your actual job? You yourself mentioned many times, and it's always affected me a lot what you said, how you had a job with a very prestigious organization, CNN. I mean, I grew up watching CNN. Well, I didn't grow up, but when they came out, I began to watch them a lot. And I mean, you had a very important position, I think, working in the Pentagon. Those are dream positions, and yet you realize for your own sense of self-worth, you couldn't maintain it. You couldn't do that. Today you work in this field and you speak your mind, you speak the truth. Your station does that. You've said many times that the role of the media or the strength of the media is to ignore. I think sometimes the verb is to suppress, because they hide things. They cut off. They never broadcast. Most of those stations never broadcast what RFK said when he gave his support to Trump. They just simply repeated that he did it, and they said that he's some kind of a nut on vaccines, and that's what they did. Nobody, if you got your news from CNN or MSNBC or ABC or CBS or the New York Times, you'd never know the powerful statement that he made against the media, and so, or about the role of the media and the way it's undermining democracy, and especially in the United States. I've mentioned this maybe to you one time before. The importance of the media in allowing the people of the United States to act as a self-governing republic. How can you select your leaders if you don't have the information? And if they suppress the information, how do you get it? And it comes back to, what is the role of the media? What does a person have in their mind when they do that job? What does Jonathan Karl have in his mind when he's doing that kind of an interview with Tom Cotton? And he's not the only one. You've mentioned many times the kind of stuff that comes out of the mouth of Scarborough or Maddow, or doesn't matter. They're all really pretty much the same. And to me, it all kind of ends up coming together, and it came together really in the words of RFK. And I'm not really much of a supporter of RFK or of really any of the Kennedys, but although I'm old enough to remember when JFK got killed, and I remember how powerful impact that had, in my home, and as I'm actually a Canadian, but still we were affected by that, and I just think this stuff is, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder how are we going to come back from this,
Yeah, you're not alone. Look, I can't tell you how frequently I go back and forth with people on how are we going to come back from this, or some variation on your question. And I know people, certainly, who just believe that we're sunk, we're done, there's no coming back, that we've gone too far down the drain, we're too corrupt, we're too bankrupt, we're too deeply in debt. We're an amoral society now, or an immoral society now, and can we rebound from all of this? And that question, Blaze, remains unanswered right now. We don't. The fight is worth fighting. It's the eternal struggle between the darkness and the light, between good and evil, between the truth and the lie. And I personally feel that it deserves to be fought, and that it's a never. Blaze, I like to quote Hillary Clinton, who famously said, "There is only the fight." And if you're dealing with people on the other side of the fence, and I don't like calling my fellow Americans enemies, but so many of them have become enemies of our country and enemies of civilization, enemy of the people. I think President Trump described the news media, and the news media representing the left and representing one political party, and to the detriment of the other political party, completely corrupts our sacred political system, our method of finding and electing our leaders. which is vitally important, not just to the United States, but to Western civilization and by extension, civilization itself on planet Earth. Without the United States and the role that we played in the 20th century, this planet would have been broken up between the National Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics under Joseph Stalin and the Chinese Communists. And look, they're still on the march. I mean, Putin is and I love the New York Times and other Democrats love to say, Putin's not a communist. You know, you're an idiot if you think Putin's not. Of course he's a communist. Don't be ridiculous. And he has women killed in their apartment building lobbies and elevators for writing articles that he disapproves of. And they jail their political enemies. And now we see the Democrat Party jailing their political enemies and abusing the court system and so on. We see the left has really got it's a great line in the movie Casablanca, the devil has the people by the throat. And honestly, the devil has the people by the throat in the Democratic Party. And RFK Jr. is talking about that. And he's telling the truth. It's not like he doesn't have Democrat Party credentials. You know, his name is Kennedy. It's Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And nobody has really better Democrat Party credentials than him. And when he is effectively a whistleblower now, RFK Jr. is. He's trying to sound the alarm. And Blaze, you're aware that now they're engaging in character assassination, which the left has a long history of doing. And again, the Democrat Party is closer on the political spectrum today to Lee Harvey Oswald than they are to John F. Kennedy, and they're closer on the political spectrum today to Sirhan Sirhan than they are to Robert F. Kennedy Sr. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is trying to sound the alarm, and therefore he must be destroyed, dismissed, ignored. You made reference to one of my sayings, which is the most insidious power the media has is the power to ignore. They ignore the truth. They highlight and exaggerate the falsehoods, and the American people end up being ignorant or worse, misinformed. You know, there's the old, I think it was Mark Twain, if you don't read the newspapers, you're uninformed. If you do read the newspapers, you're misinformed. And that was over 100 years ago. Mark Twain said that. So the more things change, the more they stay the same in the news media. There's no doubt about that. And you asked about Vince Colonnese's interview with Tucker Carlson. I know Vince went up to Maine and hung out with Tucker rather, and they used to work together at Daily Caller and so on. So they've known each other for many years, and they're good friends. And I'm told it was a 2-hour, 45-minute or so interview, and I have not honestly had the chance to go look at it. And I'm glad you teed that up because it's a good reminder for me and for everybody else. And the question of free speech being under assault here in the United States, very, very dangerous. And now this guy, and I don't know anything about him, Pavel Durov, the Russian billionaire, 39 years old, I think, and he's under arrest in France because on his social media platform, people are saying things that leftists in France disagree with. And so they have grabbed him and thrown him in jail. And you've got Alexander Vindman, little corpulent, doughy fascist, expletive deleted, who should have been court-martialed for what he did to the commander-in-chief on that Ukraine phone call. Literally should have been court-martialed for that. But now we've got this Russian guy in jail, and we've got Vindman saying that Elon Musk better beware. He's put on notice because these lefty fascists, and make no mistake, Adolf Hitler's party was called the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. These people are fascists. The commies are fascists. The fascists are commies. And there's very little daylight between the two. And you know that perfectly well. Blaze is a professor of law, correct, Blaze, in Bogota, and as he said, originally from Canada. And he's a wise man, an educated man, a serious man, a learned man. And we know all this because he listens to my radio show from Bogota, Colombia. What more do you need to know?
Where I learn everything.
And we've never seen free speech under assault like this in the United States or in Western civilization. In France, we've seen a lot of it in Canada, too, haven't we? And free speech. And I want to listen, Blaze, I want to get to audio here of RFK and so on, because he's talking about it and he's got pretty good standing on this issue too. Blaze, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the call. And
thank you for taking my call. Maybe I'll call again with some other comments.
Very good. And have a great Bogota, Colombia day. Now, again, free speech under assault, and RFK Jr. is talking about it. Now, let's go to soundbite number 2, because RFK Jr. On Friday talking about the state of the Democrats, and we've been playing a bit of audio from him. And again, it's not like I'm a devotee of RFK Jr., but I believe in his right to free speech. And I'll listen to what he has to say, and I may disagree, and I do disagree with much of what he has to say, but that's fine. This is the marketplace of ideas, and that's what free speech is all about. I may disagree with what you have to say, but I will fight to the death for your right to say it, because these are Western values, and that's one of the things that RFK is talking about. Soundbite number 2, talking about for how long have I been talking about this? Forever and ever. He does sound like me on a lot of issues now, and I don't think he used to sound like me. But keep in mind the Benito Mussolini definition of fascism, where he said you might as well call it corporatism because it is a merger of state and corporate power. And I've been talking about the Democrat Party and the news media merging their power and becoming a sort of a pseudo-state, the media Democrat Party complex.
Over the course of more than a year in a campaign where my poll numbers reached at times in the high 20s, the DNC-aligned mainstream media networks maintain a near perfect embargo on interviews with me. During his 10-month presidential campaign in 1992, Ross Perot gave 34 interviews on mainstream networks. In contrast, during the 16 months since I declared, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN combined gave only 2 live interviews from me.
2 live interviews for him. And I love, once again, it's the most insidious power the media has, the power to ignore. And they completely ignore him, a member of the beloved and vaunted Kennedy family, the storied Kennedy family. And the power to ignore is the most insidious power. And you can abuse your power by not using it as well. The DNC-aligned mainstream media networks, 34 interviews way back when Ross Perot was running, 2 for him. Isn't that amazing? RFK Jr.
Those networks instead ran a continuous deluge of hit pieces with inaccurate, often vile, pejoratives and defamatory smears. Some of those same networks and colluded with the DNC to keep me off the debate stage. Representatives of those networks are in this room right now, and I'll just take a moment to ask you to consider the many ways that your institutions have abdicated this really sacred responsibility, the duty of a free press to safeguard democracy and to challenge always the party in power, instead of maintaining that posture of fear, skepticism toward authority.
It is it's an obligation. And again, and Blaze was talking about this, it's why I had to leave CNN. They had abdicated that sacred responsibility. RFK Jr.
Your institutions have made themselves government mouthpieces and stenographers for the organs of power. You didn't alone cause the devolution of American democracy, but you could have prevented it.
Yeah, you're massive contributors to the degradation, the collapse of civil society, and the collapse of a society based on things that are true, based on the truth. And you lose everything right there. They're channeling gurgle. And it's the party. As long as the party is in power, it's also the state that they are colluding with, that they're in bed with. RFK is right, dagnabbit. All right, more RFK and President Trump on, and then they get together on this coming up.
Oh, things are very bad there, monsieur. The devil has the people by the throat.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says he's been diagnosed with West Nile disease. He didn't even go to Africa or anything, but we think it might be a cover story for monkeypox. I think it might actually be monkey. Because was he at the Democratic National Convention? We haven't heard about that yet being a monkeypox super spreader event, but I'm guessing. All right, so much to get to. Let's go to Hayes, he dropped off. Let's go to Dale calling from Winchester, Virginia. Dale, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. Boy, it's good to hear your voice, a voice of clarity and truth and power. Over the past couple of weeks, and by the way, I happen to recall hearing I Like Ike live, so I've been around for a little while, and here are my observations I'd like to propose to you. Why don't we propose that the Democratic Party change their name to the Party of Sodom and Gomorrah, WC.
WC, yeah.
Or with consequence. So what we're seeing is it's brutal. That provides absolute clarity for the members of the Democratic Party.
Well, it is who they are. There's no doubt about that.
That being said, there's a solution. Here is the solution. Now, I've been bothered by this for the past couple of weeks and just looking for the opportunity to share with you. Mm-hmm. Here's the solution. We've got to turn back to the word of the living God, not to church, not to religion, but to the word of the living God. Now, what happened to the president is not coincidental. Psalm 91 is quite clear. It simply states that 1,000 will fall to the left and 10,000 to the right, but it shall not come nigh thee. For the longest time, I've been thinking about Psalm 91 for the president, and once again, God's word proves absolutely powerful and true.
Well, the Democrats, they worship CO2 primarily.